You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, and professional speaker and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is no different. A shout out goes to Mr. TS, all the way from the AS himself, Mr. Tyson Sharp from the land of Down Under, Australia, for connecting me with this powerhouse of a guest today, because she herself, international best-selling author, life strategist, and speaker that empowers high-impact individuals and groups to elevate their life, health, and business. And this is all because she learns through a maximized impact in their organizations and communities through self-care, stress management, and mindset by empowering leaders to elevate their game. The ripple effect impacts employees, families, and communities to take charge of their health in their lives. So let's give it up for Ms. JG herself, Ms. Jen Gaudet. How you doing today, ma'am?
Fantastic, Dom. It's absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. And thanks again, Tyson, for connecting us. Always a rock star from down under.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It didn't even have to use any boulders or actual shooting stars from the skies either. It's awesome.
Like magic, right?
Yes, especially the magic. That's right. Especially when the magic involves sports medicine and learning to say no.
I don't know if that's so much magic as just really taking command of your life, your body, and your setting your effective boundaries. Not everything is magic. There is some behind the scenes work.
That's true. So there's a story about this magician who was at this little birthday party and like 19 kids ganged up on him, trying to figure out all of his magic. And that's probably the listeners considering your expertise. So mind filling in any cavities on how you became a commander of your life to be able to learn how to set boundaries?
Um, well, I'll be completely frank with you. I did not know how to set boundaries. Once upon a time, in fact, I was the yes woman. I did everything for everybody, put myself on the back burner to the point of literally living in pain and and almost losing my marriage actually because I didn't set boundaries. The truth is that when you are going through the motions and climbing the chain or trying to just live life, sometimes you begin to live to work instead of working to live. And that kind of sort of happened to me. So once upon a time, I didn't set boundaries at all, and it ended up almost ruining everything that I worked so hard for. So I was in sports medicine. I was a picture of success. Like everybody on the outside looking in thought I had it all, right? Oh, the nice car, the pool, the vacations, the husband, the family, all the things that society told me I was supposed to work for. And I got to work with amazing people. I worked with elite athletes, professional, collegiate, Olympic, pros. It was so much fun, and I interfaced with so many people. But the reality is I spent 70 hours a week for everyone else and none for what was important to me. In fact, finally got to go on a well-earned vacation with my husband. And we flew halfway across the world to be on this private island to just really finally relax and unwind. And we sat down at the table that first night to dinner, and he asked me for a divorce. And I didn't see it coming. I really didn't see it coming. And so it was like a gut punch, when you think, hey, I'm settling up, we're about to rekindle, we're going to relax, we're going to have some quality time. And he wasn't sure he wanted to stay with me because I literally gave everything to a career that didn't give back. And so in my pursuit of success, what society told us we needed to do. I said yes to the job, yes to the clients, yes to all the things. And sure, I had the money and the income and the golden handcuffs and everything that comes with that, but I was missing out on the things that were most important to me. And so I learned how to set boundaries pretty strong after that, because I decided that I loved this man. I wanted to be in this relationship and I wanted to reclaim my life. So I hired a coach, which is amazing. And I became a coach because it changed my life. Saying no and saying, you know what? I deserve to spend time with the people that I love. I deserve to spend time with my family. I can work only within certain hours. And guess what? The world didn't come to an end. My fellow employees and coworkers didn't die when I set boundaries. My clients didn't die when I set boundaries. They continue to rehabilitate, recover, and improve their performance. And I kind of had this epiphany that a lot of us on this planet do exactly the same thing that I did. We live our life according to someone else's rules, their conditions, their expectations. We're plugged into the phone. We answer the phone whenever anybody calls. We text them back. We're so connected, which is beautiful. But we also don't take the time for ourselves. We don't take the time to do what's important to us. And I started thinking about, what does success mean? And it's different for everyone. Success for me meant time freedom, ability to spend time with my husband, with my daughter, with my brand new granddaughter. And I made a very big career shift. I started speaking about boundaries because as a healthcare provider, we don't. We take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves. And so I really became impassioned by it, and it became almost like my life's work to talk about setting boundaries, honoring our priorities, knowing what's important to us, and defining our version of success. Like, what is success for me personally, not what everybody else says it is. Because I can tell you, having had the things, like all the things, that doesn't bring you joy. The only thing that brings you joy is your experiences and the people that you are surrounding yourself by. It's not the car or the house or even the vacation, which, don't get me wrong, I love to travel, but it's not the things. It truly is the connection and the people and making an impact.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's definitely good to be able to set an impact and make an impact in the world and learn from past mistakes because, heck, even going through some of your book and reading the stories, like, oh, shit, yeah, it's really important to really set boundaries. And you're definitely right, especially in the medicine field where you give so much into something, you're not going to get anything back out of it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Dom, I think that it was my experience, but I think there's an expectation, particularly in the United States in medicine, there is an expectation to do more, to give more. And really, that expectation is unrealistic, but we all buy into it. And I think there's another piece of it. It's that secret shame that we all have if we burn out. Um, I didn't know what compassion fatigue was. And I didn't realize that I was burned out until I made a change. And what I believe is, in particularly in those fields that work with people in service oriented industries, healthcare and wellness workers, we are so inspired to help other people. That's why we chose that career path. And so it's important for us to make a difference in someone else's life, and we really enjoy it, right? I think that's where the little secret shame is. We thoroughly enjoy helping other people, helping them to regain their health, helping them to improve their performance, whatever that may be. So when we get to the point where we are so tired and we've given up so much and we're burned out, we feel guilty for feeling that way. And we berate ourselves and we hide it. Because if you're in healthcare or if you're in a caregiving profession, and I know even because I have worked with some people who are like pastors or who are in nonprofits, you're called to do that, to show up and to help other people. But then when you do it to the point of the detriment of yourself and you no longer have a full cup, then you guilt and shame yourself because, well, here you are, you say that this is what's important to you and you think you believe it, but you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. And then you start to resent the people that you're caring for and resent the people that you're working with. And it's not okay to talk about it. If there is this culture where we can't say we're not okay, we have to plaster on the happy face and show up for everybody else. And it's become really ingrained in, particularly in the United States, in the medical profession. It's like an expectation. Leave all your junk at home and just show up. Don't tell people you're burned out. But I think we're in a bit of an epidemic before the pandemic hit us. And now we've had a pandemic. So you've got already burned out people who've been putting themselves on the back burner for so long, their health and everything. And what happens is you reach a breaking point and there's really no feeling of, I'm going to use the junk, it's kind of a junk term, psychological safety. Like you don't feel safe talking about this with your colleagues because you feel so much guilt for feeling that way. It's this really interesting snowballing emotional environment inside that results in pain and illness and really impacts every area of our lives.
Oh yeah, you're definitely right about that. And a lot of folks, they, especially early in their careers, they pride themselves on feeling invincible and being able to take on the world. And a few years in, or even a few weeks in, you like realize like, oh shoot, this isn't working out so well. And the the private always comes out in the public. Like I had to learn that lesson the hard way for myself. Funny enough, it's like, hey, you think you're doing good, but folks will notice. And especially with the compassion fatigue, like I didn't even hear that term either. I think it was like last spring I heard about that term, and it's so darn true. It's like if you serve so much and give so much, you have this cup of empty water, empty liquid, that you can't give it to anybody.
Right, or worse, your wine turns to vinegar. Who wants to be drinking resentment and anger? You might be like sloshing around the dregs, and it's just been like, okay, I'm going to pour this out, but people can sense that. And, it's become, as a society, it's become not okay for us to talk about those things. But what if you were filling your cup to where it always overflowed? And so you can continue to serve from that place of love and service and you actually enjoy it and you don't hit that spot to begin with. Like that is really and truly where my work is. It's helping move from that empty cup or even that cup that's got vinegar instead of wine and starting to set the boundaries, draw the line that just says, okay, this is what I'm inspired to do. And this feels like an obligation. And I really don't want to waste my time there or spend my time there because I'm going to wish I was somewhere else. So learning where those lines are, learning what is important to us in particular so that we can keep filling our cup so that it overflows into everyone else rather than pouring out empty. It truly lights my soul on fire to be able to do that for other people.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Because it's so needed nowadays, especially, well, actually, especially period. Because you mentioned how it's like this happened before the pandemic, then the pandemic just kicked into overdrive, and folks working home remotely for the first time, and a lot of folks are dealing with the fact now. It's like, hey, I can't just go home and my work is done. It's like, oh shoot, I'm working from home.
Exactly. And it's really funny because if you didn't set a boundary before, or you thought you had a boundary because you could actually physically leave, and now it's not work life balance, it's work life integration, right? Because
Ooh.
now you have kids, maybe you have kids that you're having to homeschool, maybe like you're going from one room to the next, and there's no defining like car ride for you to kind of shed all the work stuff. We've lost all the actual hard boundaries that existed, like the commute. How many people use the commute to listen to a podcast such as this one, or to just listen to their favorite tunes, or even to just have some mindfulness and to separate, or to leave work at work and be ready to be at home? But now we've brought it into our house. Now all of our home stress is married to all of our work stress because we are working from home. So it really has become quite an a conversation about work life integration and what are the things that are most important for me to put in every single day so that I can continue to be energized. Because let's face it, when the gyms are closed too, and that's your stress relief, what then? So finding the way to integrate all the filling your cup from what you do for a career with the filling your cup with what you're going to experience in your life itself, and just truly marrying all of the above.
Man, all this talk about working from home, and I've never heard of work-life integration. That is freaking awesome because that's what it is. That's so what it is.
It is, and imagine even when we go back into office settings, or when we go back to quote unquote business as usual, which I don't believe will ever be as usual, but work life integration applies there too. What's really interesting to me, Dom, is that a lot of my clients are coming to me with, huh, I thought I really loved doing this, but I don't love the quantity over quality conversation in my industry. Or I like doing X, Y, and Z in my job, but I really don't like doing these things. And so what has happened with this work life integration and this forced work from home scenario is people are starting to identify with what lights their souls on fire, and they don't want to go back to the things that were draining. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, heck, even podcast mics were sold out for a few weeks when this pandemic started. It's like, oh shoot, free time, yeah.
And what did you do with that free time?
Oh, for me, man, my goodness, I actually wrote part for a multi-author book coming out later this year called "From Crappy to Happy." So that's gonna be coming out this fall, and heck, even got back into gaming. I actually wasn't a gamer for these past few years, and actually got back into gaming a bit. And it's like, you know what? It's like, yeah, my reading took a little bit on the backside, but at the same time, it's like you only read so much now. Use it towards more podcasting while doing the gaming. So picking up some old hobbies, building up some new ones, and that can even exploding the podcast. I actually been interviewing folks like crazy since this pandemic. It's usually 2 to 3 interviews a week, but I think my max was probably five. I think that was that was 3 weeks ago, five folks in a week. So yeah, it's been pretty darn good. Pretty darn good.
Wow, that's fantastic. So you just hit home a lot of the things that I discuss with my clients and even in my book, in my boundaries course. And that's getting back in touch with what fills your cup and what brings you joy. For a couple of years, no gaming. And now you realize that, hey, I kind of enjoy doing that. And I can not only can I do that, but I can continue to read and explode my podcast. What? It's like a yes and instead of either or. And I think that's the crux of this conversation, right? When we're not setting boundaries, it's either or. It's either I help other people or I help myself, but it's really not. Boundaries is about saying yes and it's I can serve on such a high level and I can actually maximize my impact when I also take care of myself. And that's doing things that energize us or bring us joy so that we can be inspired to continue to show up in such a positive way.
Yeah, you can say that again. You can definitely say that again, especially when the folks really allow themselves to get energized if they can, and then go out to the world and treat people better, even though some people aren't really doing that. They like to be the mask police, among other things.
Right. Well, I don't believe that the people who have no intention of moving forward or growing are necessarily listening here. We select. A lot of us self-select in the things that we want to do, and everybody that's out there, whether they're you know someone who's willing to show up and serve or wanting to show up and serve, or someone who's kind of on the other side, when it's time, when whatever needs to happen in their life happens that flips that switch, then they'll be ready to receive. You might surprise yourself what happens.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's kind of like the whole Christian family sort of thing, where they have that one person who's not quote unquote saved, and they pray for years, and then they finally make a life change for the better.
Absolutely.
Ah, yes, for the better and not better. So, in your magical book, you talk about how we say no from a place of love. So, for those who may have never been familiar with that, from your experience, how do we say no from a place of love?
Right. So I think before we can say no from a place of love, we have to really dive into what does no mean to us. And this again, it goes down to societal norms, right? In society today, no has become rejection. We've decided somewhere along the lines that saying no is about rejecting the person who is offering whatever book, service, um, invitation, as opposed to what it actually is. If you invite me to a party, Dom, on Saturday, for example, and I say no, it has nothing to do with you. It's not me rejecting you. I might actually really want to go to your party, but I have something already scheduled, right? So it's not a rejection at all. No is actually saying yes to the things that are most important to us. So if my top priorities are to spend time with my husband and my newborn granddaughter, then going to a social event is going to be a no, because that takes time away from me being able to connect with my family, which is my most important number one right now. So when we put that in perspective and we own that internally ourselves, and we divorce ourselves from the idea or belief that no is a rejection, then we can actually open to no is actually a format for us to vote with our actions and to say yes and to serve on a bigger way. So when we talk about saying no from a place of love and service, it's kind of like a formula, right? It's a, hey, Dom, you invite me to a gathering on Saturday night. Dom, thank you so much for that invitation. I really appreciate it. Thanking you for the invitation, right? Saying no from a place of love and service. First, thank you and acknowledge what it is that you invited me to or asked me to do. Thank you for inviting me on Saturday night. I would love to attend and am honored that you considered me, right? Hearing what it is that the person across the table from you said or invited you to. Unfortunately, I can't do that this time because I already have dinner with my daughter and my granddaughter. So the polite decline, right? I'm not rejecting you as a person. I'm not saying no to you. I'm saying, no, I can't do this one event. Please keep me in mind for a future party invitation. I really look forward to being able to connect with you again. Right? So it's saying no, because if I said yes and I showed up at your party, I would be watching the clock and wishing I was at dinner with my daughter. That's not saying yes. That's not showing up. That's not full presence. So by saying no and saying, I cannot do this, I really appreciate the invitation. Unfortunately, I have another schedule conflict. What I'm doing is saying yes to my priorities, and I'm acknowledging where you are. Let's use another example. Your mom asked you to come change a light bulb. Your mom lives 90 minutes away from you. Mom, I would love to come help you change your light bulb. Listening. I hear that you need help with the light bulb, right? I'm verbal backtracking. I'm listening and active listening and saying that, hey, I acknowledge this because everybody wants to be heard. I'm sorry, I can't drive 90 minutes one way, which is really a 3-hour thing to come change your light bulb right now. I have work today. I'm not going to be able to do that. Have you considered calling? And I give her a phone number for a handyman in her area. That's saying no from a place of love and service. Mom, I hear that you have this issue, acknowledging her concern. Unfortunately, I cannot come. I have work. I can't give you 4 hours of my day today, but here's a phone number of someone who can help you. So giving value, giving service. So can you see how that's different than rejection in both of those cases?
Oh, yes, indeed, especially with the verbal backtracking, because that's so true. It's like, yeah, okay, they heard me. Good.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be frank. When people take no as a rejection, it's because they don't feel like they've been heard or that their needs are being met, right? If we look at everything we say and do is either an act of love or a cry for love, because we're human beings. No matter who you are, where you come from, all human beings have need for food, shelter, water. And then the very next stage on that Maslow's hierarchy is love, safety, and belonging. We need to feel like we belong. We need to feel like we have love and safety. So if if you just invited me to your party and I said, no, I'm not coming, I haven't validated your need for love, safety, and belonging. And I've just shut you down, and that can come across as a rejection. However, if I hear that you want me to be present because you value our connection, I'm honoring that, and I'm not rejecting you. I'm just rejecting the actual invitation because I have another conflict. So it's so important. Communication, saying no, how you communicate is just fine. Now let me get this straight. If somebody is, attacking you, then screaming no, no is a one-word sentence, and that is okay. But when you're talking about most human interaction, it's not in a violent situation or a situation where there is a threat. So it's important for us to exercise our no, because no means no and yes means yes. When we say no to one thing, we're saying yes to something else. And we have to be very clear about how we communicate this. And communication is not just for the sake of communication, but for the sake of connecting with one another. Now, if Dom, you invited me to a party and I don't want anything to do with you, then I'm going to politely say, Dom, you know what? This isn't an event that I'm really interested in attending. I appreciate the invitation and I thank you very much, but I don't do social gatherings. I might be an introvert. By expressing that in a way that is not hurtful, but that's acknowledging that Dom might be an extrovert and he loves big parties, but I'm an introvert and I do best with one-on-one conversations, might say, thank you for inviting me. Please don't invite me to big groups because I much prefer to have a one-on-one conversation. Would you like to grab a cup of coffee next week? That's a way of building connection and saying no from a place of love and service that honors both of our needs. If I'm the introvert, I'm setting the boundary. I will not go to a party because that drains me, but I do want to connect with you, which Dom's invitation is an invitation to connect. Otherwise, he wouldn't invite.
Yep. And then when the coffee meeting happens, just make sure the room is full of people dressed up as coffee mugs.
with really humorous sayings on every one of them.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
It's like, it's like, yeah, I heard you're an introvert. Like, oh God, no.
I'm not, for the record, I'm like the absolute opposite of an introvert. I love big gatherings. I wouldn't speak otherwise. I enjoy the energy of this.
Gotta love that visual though, right?
Oh my goodness. I'm all about the coffee mugs. If you knew anything about me, you would laugh because we could go into my kitchen and I could open up the thing and there's literally a coffee mug for every occasion. I actually have one that is the cat in the hat, wonky hat for when I'm feeling a little bit crazy. And it's funny, that imagery, because I use that to define myself on my morning meetings. Everybody knows what mood I'm in based off of what mug I have.
Oh wow. So the mug determines the mood. All right.
Yeah, or the mood determines the mug. I wonder which comes first. Like when I'm feeling really snarky, I have this one that's just Minnie Mouse from the hips down and it's got her hand on her hips. Yeah, I don't know if I'm cluing people in or if I'm just using it as a reminder to like watch my snark.
So out of curiosity, what is today's mug?
Today's mug is a Tigger mug and it has three faces. One, he's sticking his tongue out in disgust. One, he's laughing maniacally because he's just having such a good time. And one is meh. I'll tell you why. It's because it is absolutely storming here and I love the sun. I am such a sun baby. And so stormy weather kind of puts me in a funk. So I grabbed that one so that when I'm on the conversation, when I need to see like the maniacal laughing Tigger having just such a grand time, it helps me with my energy. And when I'm like, oh my goodness, I just can't anymore, I can stick my tongue out at the world. We all have our little quirks, right?
Oh yeah, heck yeah, we do. Heck yeah. First time I actually heard about the mood determining the mug and vice versa. It's like, all right, Jen's on, the video's on. All right, which mug is it today? Ah, Oh, okay. It's the cat in the hat one. All right, good, good. All right, all right, good.
I tell you what, like most people don't know that about me, but they always inquire. People make comments about my mugs all the time, and they're always like inquiring what's that about or making comments. It's kind of like my little inside joke. Just like, do you ever get into a room and you're like, why am I here? What am I doing here? Why did I say yes to this? You
Yes,
ever been in that room?
yes,
So the way I manage my energy, because one of the biggest things that I work with my clients about, and I speak about this often, is people can sense your energy. What you say, the words that come out of your mouth, that's only 7% of communication. Body language, your energetics, your tone, that is the majority of communication. So if you're saying all the right things, but you're leaned back, you're slumped in, and you're just like putting off this just general air of, I wish I wasn't here, then nobody wants to have you present, and it does, like whatever you're trying to get across doesn't happen. So my mug is one of my little secrets to help me manage my energy, but the other secret I have is I'm a very visual person. And so if I'm in that room and I don't want to be there, I see everybody as cartoon characters in my mind because it makes me laugh, and I just can't take anything seriously. So if I'm in that I wish I wasn't there mode, I literally caricaturize everybody. And then if they make me mad, I send invisible throat punches to them.
damn.
But you know, it's like kind of like in Super Mario Brothers when they throw little things out. It's not meant in a vicious way. It's meant to make me laugh so I can get out of my own head. So I throw the little, like I see the little like ding, 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 and I even hear that in my head. And it helps me to like get the energy up and to promote the positivity, because when we are positive, it's infectious and it impacts every single person in the room. So I like to be the person who brings the sunshine. And if I do whatever it takes, if it's seeing people as cartoon characters, and when they say something that is ugly to someone else, I throw a punch up, so be it.
It's like the Rock'em Sock'em robots. Their neck goes all the way up to the ceiling afterwards.
Yes. Yes. You
Okay.
know, life is here to be lived, and it's meant to be humorous. If we can interject a little humor, then we can overcome anything.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I already know who to introduce you to after this podcast is over then. All right, this is good. Good in the neighborhood. That's freaking hilarious. I'm probably going to use that in the future and see how it goes.
You let me know. Definitely text me and say, hey, I tried
It's like, yep, the entire room was full of cartoon characters, and one of them was a tree afterwards. So, yeah.
this. That's fantastic. Oh, yeah. So now you have a little insight into the crazy inner mind of Jen.
Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it indeed because it shows creativity. It shows creativity. And then speaking of creativity, you got this part in the book where it talks about taking away permission slips. And I've read a couple books about boundaries, but never mentioning permission slips at all. So am I going deeper into permission slips?
Oh, absolutely. So if you are, I'm a very visual and kinesthetic type person. And if you remember being in school and you had a hall pass maybe to go to the bathroom when you're in grade school, you know, the teacher had to give you permission to go utilize the facilities. I like to imagine that every time we say yes to something that we don't mean to say yes to, that we really meant to say no to, we've given that person permission to step on our boundaries. So I'll give you an example. Boundaries are not just about our time or our money, where we spend our time, where we spend our money, or who we choose to be around. It's also how we allow other people to speak to us. So when we are in a room and we let people speak down to us, for example, or we let someone walk all over us like we're a doormat for a while, and this might be a little TMI, but in my first marriage, I had a verbally abusive ex-husband, and it became physical one time. But all along, every time he said something that would be detrimental to my mental or emotional status, I was giving them permission by not standing up for myself and not saying, you know what, you don't get to talk to me that way. I am worthy. I do deserve this. I do work hard. I was giving him permission every step of the way. He was stacking up permission slips to speak to me in a negative manner and to destroy my confidence. And so if you think about every time you've allowed people to say something demeaning to you and not stepped in and say, you know what, I respect you, but you don't get to speak to me in that manner. I have too much respect for myself. Every time you've allowed that to persist, you've given permission slips for people to take your power away. And so when we talk about setting boundaries, one of the first things that I would like to encourage you to do is think about the people who you allow to say negative things to you about, or to rain on your parade, if you will, or to say you can't do this thing that you want to do, and take that permission slip away. So, for example, when I moved into coaching from sports medicine, I had a very successful career in sports medicine. I worked with elite athletes, I was the picture of success, and then I said I wanted to be a coach. And people in my peer group thought I had lost my mind. They said things such as, why on earth would you want to do something as dumb as that? Why would you give up a successful career to pursue something so, and they marginalized what I wanted to do. And I allowed them to do that for a little while. And then I said, no, I'm not going to do this. Like, boundaries is a new thing for me. You don't get to speak to me this way. You know what? I have a profound amount of professional respect for you in the sports medicine world, but I don't allow you. I'm revoking your permission to speak to me in a way that is demeaning to my chosen career path. And so you just take those permission slips back, and all of a sudden you're reclaiming little pieces of your personal power. When we talk about power, I don't mean like in the overload, Lord, I'm going to take all your stuff power. I'm talking about your confidence, owning your worth. Like, our power, when I say stepping into our power, I mean step into all that we are and own all of us, and own your gifts and share the gifts. So, like, owning your personal power is about really being confident in your own skin and loving and accepting all of you, good, bad, and ugly. Like, none of us are perfect. We all have like demons in our closet or what have you, but know what your strengths are and own them, and own your weaknesses as well. But don't allow other people to marginalize you. So you take back those permission slips, and all of a sudden you've got like handfuls of them, so much that you can go like throw it like confetti to the world, because now you're like, you know what? No one outside of myself has permission to make me feel bad about myself. No one else has permission to take away my self-worth. Because honestly, confidence and self-worth, those are inner game. Mindset is inner work. Our success is dictated by ourselves. No one else gets to choose for me my life or my life path or what I call successful. And if you think that, you know, my version of success is silly, that's great. I can agree respectfully to disagree with you, because success is an inner job too. Each of us defines that. And it starts by taking permission away from other people to define it for us. No longer am I going to work in a career because someone else decided that was the career for me. No longer am I going to be in a relationship that diminishes a sense of who I am. No longer am I going to let someone else tell me that I need to have like 10 cars and an airplane to be successful. Like, I get to choose what success is. And so do you. So that's what the permission slips is about. It's about taking back those hall passes that you've been given out every day of your life, even though you didn't realize it, and owning that you are responsible 100% for every choice that you make, for every decision, for your version of success, and for how you allow other people to speak to you. And it really is simple and not easy. It's a habit. We have gotten in the habit societally of saying yes to everybody else's needs before we say it, we take care of ourselves. We've gotten in the habit of thinking it was selfish if we took time to do our daily workout instead of going and doing something else for someone else. But the reality is, it's time for us to take permission slips back, because we have to take care of ourselves. We have to start with us. Self-care. We have to be all that we are and come from a full cup, so that we can continue to serve others in such a big way. And the beautiful thing about permission slips are, when you take other people's permission slips away and you own all of your own slips for your own worth, your choices, everything that you are, It subtly gives permission to those around you to do the same. So if we own our worth and we own what we define success as, and we pursue our vision, our personal mission, and show up in the world so powerfully in our unique gifts, it allows everyone around us to give themselves permission to do the same. It's like a ripple effect. All of a sudden, it becomes easy to say no from a place of love and service, to set a boundary in a way that is respectful and also adds value to the relationships around us. And if that happens, that spreads. That ripple effect can become a wave that ultimately becomes a tidal wave that changes our world experience. All of a sudden, people around us are coming from a place of love and service because they are coming from a place of having a full cup that's overflowing. And together, a rising tide raises all ships. Together, we can then be stronger, and we can actually affect the change that we want to see. It starts with us.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The change we want to see. That's right, folks. Take all the permission slips away from the folks who don't want to use them with pride. That way they can stay in the classroom and have to pee their pants. That's right.
Well, I don't condone that.
Metaphorically.
Oh. Ah, yes, take permission slips back.
That's right.
Oh goodness.
It's a whole new level now.
You just take it a different place.
That's
I
right.
might need to use permission. I'm gonna ask for permission to use that in the future when I need to diffuse the tension.
Oh, please do. Please do. Yes, indeed. Heck, even got one guest to think of a gold bar with the unicorn horn. She uses that to define your most viable client or your perfect client avatar. It's like, yeah, you got to find your gold bar unicorn horn somewhere.
That's pretty amazing. I've never heard that. Oh,
That's right. The power of conversation brings out the craziness in both of the folks. The good craziness. Ah, yes, indeed. Well, speaking of goodness, if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in 2020, with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
oh, that's really simple. I would tell myself to cut ties with the people who are toxic to me and the things that are important in my life, because when we allow people to rain on our proverbial parade and to continually doubt us, it only holds us back. And when I was 25, I had a real fear of, if I let go of certain people who talked down to me or sort of destroyed my confidence, that I wouldn't have anybody. But the reality is, when you eliminate the toxic people from your life, so when you set the boundaries and don't allow people to talk down to you, and you really start to say yes to the things that are empowering to yourself and your life, your people, the people who are going to love you no matter what you want to do or whatever you define yourself as, who love you as you are, they will come into your life. It's just that simple. And it requires cutting the toxic relationships and moving away from the people who are holding you back in order to make space for the people who are for you. And I'm a huge fan of a community. I believe that we are here to support one another, and together we are stronger. It's one of my hashtags that I use all the time. It's something that I stand behind. And the right people are there for us. We simply need to make space for it. And that means saying yes to what's important to us first and setting those boundaries. If I knew that then, Dom, we would probably be having this conversation in front of about 30,000 people live on stage.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It'll happen eventually one of these darn days when COVID finally goes into permanent hibernation.
Oh my goodness, I cannot wait. I miss stages.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yes. Especially without a mask, too. One of my buddies, he's actually out in Texas, Daniel Gomez. He had a speaking engagement, but it was with the mask, and he's a motivational type that gets energized, and you talked about how the aftermath that wasn't too fun.
Yeah, it's hard because I can see people smiling when they're really smiling because your eyes smile, right? But you miss so much of communication when it's hidden behind the mask.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with those black masks making everybody look like ninjas and assassins. Like, oh crap.
Right? Give them a samurai sword and let them go to town.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just in certain places though, just not around the good folk.
Right? Oh goodness.
Yeah, I'm probably going down that dark road again that doesn't have chocolate. So for those who want to take the light road with the joyful Jen, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. You can find me. I have a website, jengaudet.coaching.com, JenGaudetCoaching.com. You can find me on Facebook, Jen Gaudet, Jengaudet. I have a business page and a personal profile. I'm also on LinkedIn and YouTube, but any method of contact is great. You can find ways to contact me on my website. That's the best first entry point. I look forward to having a conversation. And if you're interested on my book on boundaries, it's called Over My Dead Body, The Art of Saying No, a step-by-step journey towards boundaries that stick. And it's available on Amazon. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, I have it set to free during COVID just because it's so vitally important that people set those boundaries. You can also purchase the ebook or the paperback copy if you're like me and you like to highlight and write all over your books.
Ah, yes, indeed. The highlight without the weed. That's what I'm talking about. That's right. Grab that magical book, make it your friend, and you too will become a boundary black belt martial artist. Oh, yeah. That's right, indeed. So, any parting words to the folks still listening, Jen?
I would just like to encourage you that if you've been listening to this and you're like, yeah, I'm the person who says yes to everyone and everything and puts myself on the back burner. And if you've tried but failed to set boundaries in the past, get a coach. It's so vitally important when we are moving forward towards altering our beliefs, feeling like we deserve this and we're good enough, to have that coach in your corner. I am never without a coach these days. I actually have 5 currently, and the value is immeasurable in every area of life. So if you've tried and had a hard time, find a coach. Otherwise, start the process and look at the 1% improvement each day, because habits take time. And if we focus on celebrating the 1% improvement, that's how we can get it to stick, and it can really just take control of our life, and we'll all of a sudden start to attract what it is we want to see in our world.
How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode.